Hi, welcome back to the Cosmic Consciousness series. If you know, you know, and if you really know, hit the subscribe and like button, and welcome to the Unity, baby. Today, we'll be doing Chapter 6, Dante. You know, good old Dante wrote the, what are those things called? Oh yeah, the Divine Comedy. Well, that's ironic. Okay, Chapter 6, Dante. Born in 1265, died in 1321. Balzac clearly intimates his conviction that Dante was a specialist, which is his name for what we call a man who has cosmic consciousness. Balzac probably knew Dante very thoroughly and could not be mistaken on this point, being himself a specialist. For as a musician knows of another man whether or not he is a musician, as a poet knows of another man whether or not he is a poet, as a painter knows of another man whether or not he is a painter, and as a man with a sense of sight, living in a country inhabited with men, nearly all of whom are blind, must know whom among his acquaintances can see and who cannot. So today and all days, a man who has the cosmic sense will know of any given man with whom he is acquainted, either personally or by his works, whether or not he also has it. We could therefore accept with confidence Balzac's word that Dante had the cosmic sense, but let us not do so. Let us try to see for ourselves. Why don't we? 1. Dante's outward life and personality are as good as lost to us as of the 19th century. It seems clear, however, and the character of his writings would indicate the same thing, that as Boccaccio says, even as a young man he was, in his words, taken by the sweetness of knowing the truth of the things he concealed in heaven, and finding no other pleasure dearer to him in life, he left all other worldly care and gave himself to this alone, and that no part of philosophy might remain unseen by him, he plunged with acute intellect into the deepest recesses of theology, and so far succeeded in his design that, caring nothing for heat or cold, or watchings or fastings or any other bodily discomforts, by assiduous study he came to know of the divine essence and of other separate intelligences all that the human intellect can comprehend. And Leonardo Bruni says of him that, in his words, by study of philosophy, of theology, astrology, arithmetic, and geometry, by reading of history, by the turning over many curious books, watching and sweating in his studies, he, Dante, acquired the science which he was to adorn and explain in his verses. Wow, exciting. All which means that Dante was a thoughtful, studious, earnest nature, and we may interpret this fact to mean either that in his case such a life led up to a high poetic genius within the limits of self-consciousness, or that it led up, as claimed here, to cosmic consciousness. In any case, Dante's youth seems to have been such as we often find in men who attain illumination. Part 2. Now, as to the outward man, Boccaccio says, our poet was of middle height, and after reaching mature years he went somewhat stooping. His gait was grave and sedate, always clothed in the most becoming garments. His dress was suited to the ripeness of his years. His face was long, his nose aquiline, his eyes rather large than small, his jaw heavy and his under lip prominent. His complexion was dark, and his hair and beard thick, black, and crisp, and his countenance was always sad and thoughtful. His manners, whether in public or at home, were wonderfully composed and restrained, and in all his ways he was more courteous and civil than anyone else. Oh, melancholy man, huh? Again, Charles E. Norton says of an undoubtedly authentic death mask of the poet, the face is one of the most pathetic upon which human eyes ever looked, for it exhibits in its expression the conflict between the strong nature of the man and the hard dealings of fortune, between the idea of his life and its practical experience. Strength is the most striking attribute of the countenance, displayed alike in the broad forehead, the masculine nose, the firm lips, the heavy jaw, and wide chin, and this strength, resulting from the main forms of the features, is enforced by the strength of the lines of expression. The look is grave and stern almost to grimness. There is a scornful lift to the eyebrows and a contraction of the forehead as from painful thought, but obscured under this look, yet not lost, are the marks of tenderness, refinement, and self-mastery, which, in combination with more obvious characteristics, give to the countenance of the dead poet an ineffable dignity and melancholy. There is neither weakness nor failure here. It is the image of the strong fortress of a strong soul buttressed on conscience and impregnable will, battered by the blows of enemies without and within, bearing upon its walls the dents of many of a siege, but standing firm and unshaken against all attacks until the warfare was at an end. Wow, he must have seen some stuff, you know? He must have seen some stuff. Part 3. As to the quality of Dante's mind and of his work, it will be well to quote here briefly, perhaps as high an authority as has lived in recent times. He says, Dante says, the Dantesque account of hell, purgatory, and paradise is not an arbitrary or fantastic dream, but the vivid and substantial embodiment of a profound philosophy. Meanwhile, leaving antiquarians to elucidate the pedigree of Dante's ideas, we may observe that from his... Oh, wait, this is someone else. Okay, that was Dante before. This is someone else. Meanwhile, leaving antiquarians to elucidate the pedigree of Dante's ideas, we may observe that from his earliest boyhood he was familiar with dreams and visions, and that he hints himself at the end of the Vita Nuova that the vision of the comedy came to him as a revelation while he was pondering on the thought of death and upon the memory of Beatrice. The object of the whole work, he writes to Can Grande, is to make those who live in this life leave their state of misery and to lead them to a state of happiness. Wow, that sounds a lot like Nirvana, doesn't it? So the notes, okay. This is of course necessarily true of every book that springs from, is dictated by, the cosmic sense. The writer, while knowing nothing about cosmic consciousness, adopts, as it were perforce, the same theory of Dante and his work as that propounded here. The main object in life in the case of every man having the cosmic sense is to bestow it upon the race, and each feels in himself some power so to bestow it. Part 4. In the Divine Comedy, which is a book strictly parallel to the Commedia Humane, or The Leaves of Grass by Whitman, in the sense that it is a picture of the world from the point of view of the writer, Dante tells first in the Inferno section of human life as seen among ill-doers, the sinful and the wicked. Then in the Purgatorio, that second realm where the human spirit is purified and becomes worthy to ascend to heaven, he speaks of human life as seen in those who are struggling towards the light, who are trying to lead good lives but are so far overburdened by hereditary flaws, faults committed, bad habits formed, unfortunate surroundings, and other adverse circumstances. These are the better people, short of illumination. But in the Paradiso, Dante treats of the new world of the cosmic sense, of the kingdom of God, Nirvana, if you will. Beatrice making happy is the cosmic sense. Okay, I get it. So that's what he calls cosmic sense. He calls it Beatrice. It's like a woman's name to him. I guess his other self would be like a feminine type self. So Beatrice making happy, that's what that means, is the cosmic sense, which in fact alone makes happy. Cool. The name may have been suggested by a beautiful girl so named. If so, the coincidence is curious. It is, though. It really is. That the meaning is as here said, seems clear from 100 passages. Take 1. Virgil says to Dante, so much as reason seeth here, can I tell thee, beyond that, beyond reason, the self-conscious mind, that is, awaits still for Beatrice. What is beyond reason, the self-conscious mind, but cosmic consciousness? Dante wanders through the self-conscious world, Inferno and Purgatorio, guided by Virgil, chosen as a splendid example and type of the self-conscious mind, and also probably because he had really been one of Dante's principal guides before his illumination. But Virgil was not a case of cosmic consciousness, and of course he cannot enter into paradise. Beatrice, the cosmic sense, does lead Dante into the realm, and is his guide there. Dante's Vita Nuova, written at the end of the 13th century, was first published in 1309 when he was 44 years of age. At the very end of it, he seems to speak of the oncoming of cosmic consciousness. The Divine Comedy was finished in 1321, the time of the action being strictly confined to the end of March and the beginning of April, 1300, at which time Dante was 35 years old. It seems almost certain that this was the date of his illumination. It would be at the typical age and in the typical season, and there seems nothing against the supposition. It is a reasonable presumption that the earlier book, Vita Nuova, was being written up to the early spring of 1300, and that when illumination took place, it was closed to give place to a greater work then to be begun, that the latter book, the Divine Comedy, was actually begun at that date. Okay. Part 5. The Vita Nuova closes as follows. After this sonnet, a wonderful vision appeared to me, in which I saw things which made me resolve to speak no more of this blessed one, Beatrice, until I could more worthily treat of her. And to attain this, I study to the utmost of my power as she truly knows. so that if it shall please him through whom all things live, that my life be prolonged for some years, I hope to say of her what was never said of any woman. Okay, part 6. We will now follow Dante's experience as closely as possible in his own words, using always, as we have done above, the translation of Charles Eliot Norton. And we take first from Purgatorio, the passage descriptive of Dante's approach to the divine land. When Dante is about to enter cosmic consciousness, Virgil says of him, "Expect no more or word or sign from me, free, upright, and sane in thine own free will, and it would be wrong not to act according to its pleasure. Wherefore thee over thyself I crown and mitre." Sounds like he's talking to himself. Okay, so there are 2 points here well worthy of being noted. 1, when the cosmic sense comes, the rules and standards belonging to self-consciousness alone are suspended. Confronted, turned back, laid away, is Whitman's expression. No man with the cosmic sense will take direction in the affairs of the soul from any other man or any so-called God. In his own heart he holds the highest accessible standard, and to that he will and must adhere. That only can he truly obey himself. 2, the other is the duplication of the individual, thee over thyself. Compare with these words, the other I am of Whitman. 'Tis thee, myself, that for myself I praise, of Shakespeare. Wow, even Shakespeare said that. If any man is in Christ, he is a new creature, of Paul. Except a man be born anew, of Jesus. Born anew, okay. A new individual must be born within the old one, and being so born will live its own distinctive life. Virgil withdraws. The self-conscious mind abdicates its sovereignty in presence of the greater authority. Dante comes into immediate relation with Beatrice, cosmic consciousness. A lady appeared to me robed, as he says, okay? A lady appeared to me robed with the color of a living flame. I turned me to the left with the confidence with which the little child runs to his mother when he is frightened or when he is troubled, to say to Virgil, "Less than a drachm of blood remains in me that does not tremble. I recognize the signals of the ancient flame." But Virgil had left us deprived of himself. And as my face stretched upward, my eyes saw Beatrice. Beneath her veil and beyond the stream, she seemed to me more to surpass her ancient self than she surpassed the others here when she was here. Okay, so the cosmic sense robed with this subjective light, as it says above. At the threshold of the new sense, Virgil, the type here of a human faculty short of it, leaves Dante. Not that simple and self-consciousness leaves us when we enter cosmic consciousness, but they do cease to guide us. The eyesight has another eyesight, the hearing another hearing, and the voice another voice. That's the, I'm pretty sure that's the Bhagavad Gita. I'm pretty sure. The new world is still veiled and far off, but even so, its glory far transcends anything in the old world of mere self-consciousness. When I was near the blessed shore, the beautiful lady, I guess nature, opened her arms, clasped my head, and plunged me in where it behooved that I should swallow the water. O splendor of living light eternal, who hath become so pallid under the shadow of Parnassus, or hath so drunk at its cistern that he would not seem to have his mind encumbered, trying to represent thee as thou didst appear there, where in harmony the heaven overshadows thee, when in the open air thou didst thyself disclose. Wow, that's confusing. Okay, notes. The drinking of the waters of Lethe, which obliterate the memory of sin, as it says above. Norton's note. There is no sense of sin in cosmic consciousness when you truly have it. That's what I always say, there's no sense of evil either. Okay, the best prepared poet, that is on the level of self-consciousness, by study and practice could not portray the new world when it freely, even in the open air, discloses itself. No shuttered room or school can commune with me, says the cosmic sense by the tongue of Whitman. No school, no law, no anything. Beatrice, that is the cosmic sense, says to Dante, "Thou shalt be with me, with it, without end a citizen of that Rome whereof Christ is a Roman." Okay, so this is when Dante enters into equality with Jesus. Compare Whitman's "to him who was crucified." Again, Beatrice says to him, "From fear and from shame I wish that thou henceforth divest thyself." Okay, so compare Balzac's Jesus was a specialist, and Paul's heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ. Neither fear nor shame can exist along with the cosmic sense. Sorry. Part 7. So much for the approach up to the cosmic sense. Let us see next what Dante says of it after having entered it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The glory of him who moves everything penetrates through the universe and shines in one part more and in another less. In the heaven that receives most of its light, I have been and have seen things which he who descends from there above neither knows how nor is able to recount. On a sudden days seemed to be added today, as if he who is able had adorned the heaven with another sun. Okay, so Paul heard unspeakable words, and Whitman, when he tried to tell the best of that which he had, became so dumb. At that point, so like the point where you're being urged to describe it, I mean, there are no words. Like, I know nothing. Like, I am dead, brain dead. As in a swoon, one instant, another sun, ineffable, full, dazzles me. Okay, so this is, of course, the subjective light, also seen by Mohammed, Paul, and others at the moment of entrance into the cosmic sense. Okay, back to Dante. Beatrice was standing with her eyes wholly fixed on the eternal wheels, and on her I fixed my eyes from there above removed. Looking at her, I inwardly became such as Glaucus became on tasting of the herb which made him consort in the sea of other gods. Transhumanizing cannot be signified in words, therefore let the example suffice him to whom grace reserves experience. If I were only what of me thou didst last create, O love that governest the heavens, thou knowest who with thy light didst lift me. When the revolution which thou, being desired, makest eternal, made me attent unto itself, with the harmony which thou attunest and modulatest, so much of the heaven then seemed to me enkindled by the flame of the sun, that rain or river never made so broad a lake. Well, that's a massive jump. Glaucus was the steersman of the ship Argo, who was changed into a god. Okay, the desire for God leads a man from self to cosmic consciousness, and that revolution, when effected, is eternal. When Dante awoke into the cosmic sense, into the new cosmos, the first thing to strike him, as it is and must be with the first thing to strike every one who so awakes, was the vision of the eternal wheels, the chain of causation, the universal order, if you will, a vision infinitely beyond expression by human words. His new self, Beatrice, had its eyes fixed on this, the cosmic unfolding. Gazing thereupon the cosmic vision and the cosmic rapture transhumanized him into a god. In this vision, it is this vision of the universal order coming instantaneously, lighting the world as lightning illumines the landscape, but unlike lightning remaining, that has led the present writer to adopt the name cosmic consciousness, a consciousness of the cosmos. Compare with Dante's Gautama's experience as given in the Mahavega. Oh, okay, that was the Mahavega. Okay, during the first watch of the night, he fixed his mind upon the chain of causation. During the second watch, he did the same. During the third, he did the same. And as already shown, this is among the very earliest and most reliable accounts of the illumination of the Buddha. After illumination, Dante wrote the Divine Comedy. In it, as a whole, must be sought the expression such as Dante would give, or could give, of the cosmic vision. It is therefore a parallel statement with the Quran, the Upanishads, Suttas, the Pauline epistles, the words of Jesus, the Comedie Humaine, the Leaves of Grass, the Shakespeare drama, the sonnets, the works of Behmen, and Towards Democracy. To sum it up, we have in this case A, the characteristic suddenness that belongs to the oncoming of the cosmic sense. B, illumination occurs at the typical age and time of year, around in his mid-30s, almost into 40. C, the subjective light is a strongly marked feature. D, intellectual illumination. E, moral elevation. F, the sense of immortality. And G, the extinction of the sense of sin and of shame and of fear of death.